If you've ever owned an E36 for any period of time, you know that the cooling system is the weakest point. At least I chose to make that mess, not the car. So today I'm refreshing the entire cooling system, water pump, thermostat, radiator, and then giving it a quick service. That way we can finally take this car on a test drive for the first time in over 4 years. Once everything is drained, you need to take off this plastic cover at the top, which should have a few bolts in through here and here. Mine has nothing connected to it, so it just lifts up. I'll take it off. Stop meter air box here. Set that aside. And then we have 3 hoses to disconnect. This top one here, a smaller bottom one down there, and one over on the left at the bottom here. Actually, just before I take them off, there's 2 electrical connections. One here on the left needs comes off. Just push in, pull, and then another one from underneath. Same as the last one, just push in and pull. Yeah, perfect. As you can see, this hatch right here is also not connected to anything, but you would have to take a bolt out the top here and a bolt out the top to the other side. Okay, next we'll take off these 2 clips, get a screwdriver in either side and just pry gently. Now I want to lift the radiator up and back slightly. That way we can start removing the transmission cooler. I forgot to hit record, but to get the radiator out, you want to start pulling up on the left side first and make it come up in a diagonal this way. Now just go ahead and take off this shroud as well. So to remove the viscous fan, you'll need the viscous fan removal set. Now, I don't know if I can get this too well on camera, but you want to use this side and it will go sideways across the bolts at the top. If I can see that locked in, and that will allow you to get your second part of the tool in and just release that big nut in the middle there. Forgot to mention, this is reverse threaded, so you're turning to the right to loosen it. To remove the thermostat and the thermostat housing, you need to take off the 4 bolts on the thermostat housing itself. This top one is 10mm on the left and I think a 13mm on the right. And then, I'm not sure if you can see it, but underneath there is a 10mm in there and another 10mm in there. You also need to remove this top nut here because this comes round and is attached to a bracket on the thermostat housing. If we look down here, you can see where it's clearly leaking, where it's turned white and all the coolant has dried on the engine. Same within here. We're going to loosen these 4 10mm bolts off the water pump pulley first, and then we can take the belt off by loosening this tensioner here. There's a cap in the front that just pries off. And then there's either going to be a 16mm or a Torx bolt if it's aftermarket. We have Torx most of this place, so we'll just put some pressure on that there. It should loosen the belt and then we can take the belt off and the pulley off. But it's important first, when you're only loosening these 4 bolts, and then you take the belt off and then you can remove these completely. Water pump actually looks fairly new. Just get it out now. It is 4 10mm bolts again, one in each corner. I managed to catch some of it in a bucket. There is a drain block on the side of the engine we can remove, and we could have avoided this, but I think it's easier just to let it spill out and catch as much as you can. So there is quite bad pitting all around the maintenance surface. That looks like dirt, but really that's just pitted into the metal. It's worse on the thermostat housing than it is on the water pump housing. The water pump is just a small amount of pitting at the bottom, but honestly it's not too bad. So just to make sure this seals great, I might put a bit of non-sealing gasket on it. Usually I would say not to put any form of sealing gasket on anything related to the coolant, but just with how bad this pitting is, I think I'm going to. You need to be quite careful with the sealant that you use. You can't use silicone sealant or like RTV or anything like that there. What you have to go for is something like this. So this is a non-setting gasket. That way, if any of the silicone was to get brought into the cooling system, it's not going to block any of the small channels or anything. It won't set and it won't go hard. Maybe a thin layer just in the thermostat housing as well, just to hopefully seal this up a wee bit better than it was before. Now same as taking it off, we're just going to get these snug, and then once the belt is on, the tension on, we can fully tighten it then. And with our new thermostat and our new thermostat housing, we can get that in place and tighten them 4 bolts up again. Just before we tighten everything up, you kind of want to come into the sides, make sure, it's hard to see on camera, that all your gaskets are in the right place. So we're looking at the orange gasket there, it hasn't folded or bulged out at the side. And it's hard to see in here, but that the O-ring hasn't slipped on the outside either, and it hasn't. So we'll go ahead and tighten these 4 bolts up. Again, working in a crisscross kind of pattern to try and tighten down evenly. And that is the water pump and the thermostat housing back on. I'm going to leave the hoses off for the time being, just to get the radiator back on. I think it'll be easier to reconnect them then. And now we can put our fan back in place the same way we took it off, just remembering that it's reverse threaded. It was at this point I realised I'd been sent a radiator for a 4-cylinder, so I'll have to throw the old one back in till the new one arrives. Next I'm just going to throw the 2 hoses on either side. Is all of the hoses connected back up. So here, bottom one takes back the tank, and this hose here with thermostat housing. So we'll not forget our 2 electrical connections. Almost forgot the tensor cover. Okay, so this is everything you'll need to do the oil and filter change part of the service. Ratchet 36mm for the oil filter housing bolt at the top, 17mm for the drain. I like to use something from a picker hook just to pull off the O-rings to change them. Fenching makes it a wee bit easier. Something to drain the oil into, and then of course the oil and the filter. So let's go into the car and we'll go from there. So you make sure the copper O-ring comes off with us. This time it did. If not, just have to pick it off this side and just remember when you're replacing it. Okay, so I lost the drain from the bottom. We can go ahead and loosen the oil filter. Just getting something to stop this making a mess. Get the drain as much as you can. Just under the oil filter O-ring. Pull that down out. Take it out. Oil filter, just pull out with the O-ring on first. Yeah, if you have some, rub it around. Keep that lubricated. Put the new oil filter on. Back in the engine bay then, just put your new oil filter in. Just get the copper washer that comes with the kit, place that in your sump plug, and stick it back in underneath the car. I'm not going to worry too much about that tiny bit of oil still coming out. Most of it's out already. The oil capacity for the M52 B28 engines is 6.5 litres. So we can tip a full one of these. This is 4 litres, so we put this in first. This next one we want to pour in about 2.5, but we'll pour in 2 and then check on the dipstick, see what it's looking like. That's us right at the full mark. Perfect. Almost forgot to put the oil cap back on. And now that we've made sure we had no leaks, it's time to finally drive this thing.